I'm Special Correspondent Ryan LaPlante, and I am definitely not a witch. And I am here with Special Correspondent Del Borovic, who...
I'm not a witch.
Who is not a witch.
Yeah.
Or so we've been told.
Uh-huh.
We just completed the third episode of Agatha All Along. Through Many Miles of Tricks and Trials is the title. We finished this 5 seconds ago.
We did.
have switched locations. We are 15 feet from where we were when this ended. A lot of stuff has gone down. Del, it turns out you were right.
Oh, thank you.
You called it. We have our first corpse, and it is Sharon, the lady who was
Hart.
never supposed to have been here.
Yeah. The death to the comedy relief, I guess, right out of the gate. So that's telling us something.
Though, do you think she's going to stay dead? Do you think they're going to save her, or is she dead? Because this is where we get into like the witchy.
Well, now that you say that,
all.
just because of the way that she looked when she was dead, I'm like, she might come back as a weird zombie monster or something and mess things up.
Final boss of the road is all the people they lose on the way. I don't feel like any
of these ladies are nice enough to want to try and bring this lady back to life. Maybe she'll just show up at zombie shenanigans in the future.
Do you think we're going to lose a person an episode?
Maybe.
Like we're just going to burn through this
everybody
coven on their way through?
It's very possible. But yeah, maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that's why they say other people got lost on the road, that they're just like, maybe their souls are just stuck there and just kind of hanging out, doing a spooky
hanging out arms?
Yeah.
I like that. Just little floaties.
Little floaties.
Okay, you mentioned this on recording, and we have to circle back to definitely not a witch, Del Borovic.
Yeah.
You talked about the idea of witch powers allowing you to just float a little bit, and that would be okay. But that actually has that's a core memory for you.
Because it's the first thing that popped into my mind. Is because I used to, I guess as a young teen especially, but I used to have a recurring dream where like I had a handful of recurring nightmares, but this was just like a recurring good dream, I guess. Of it was everything in the dream was normal day, going to school or doing something like that. And then I realized if you like tilt a certain amount, like lean enough and kind of balance, then you could just start floating. And it was like in the dream, I'm like, oh crap, I like anyone could do this if they realized it. And I would always wake up and be like, oh man.
Did you ever try to lean just that way in real life to see if it would work?
I think once I was out of the dream, I realized it was a dream. So that the information given to me was incorrect.
Do you think if you believed hard enough, it could work?
I don't know. Maybe. Just so you know, if anyone wants to practice, it's just like do a stand, do a sort of a lean.
Do you want to try it? I feel like we need to see you try it.
No.
You're worried it'll be too real?
It'll be too real. I can't have that.
Maybe we'll test it at the very end of our reaction. The last thing we will see is if Del can float.
I think everyone else at home should try it. Maybe they'll have a.
I think you lead the way and they'll try too. We need to know how many of our listeners can float, which is, I think, if we look back at the Salem witch trials, an official way to test whether or not someone is a witch.
That is true.
So little floaties, very
just
indicative
little floaties
of real witch powers.
Yeah, I think the closest we have in real life is just having Heelys. If it's basically was that, but
that's how you're a witch.
Yeah.
Any person wearing Heelys,
witch, 100%.
Deal with it, 100% witch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't. We have our first
death. Yeah.
That's
I didn't
crazy.
expect that either.
I feel like it's going to stick. I do think we might see a zombie or something like that later on.
But I don't think she's coming back for realsies.
No, I think the road got her. I think she's just lost to the road.
Yeah.
But she was never supposed to be here.
That's true.
In a
but
sense
then
that
now
like, she's
they're
also
down
not
a
magical.
coven person.
But they weren't supposed to have her. They're supposed to have the black heart.
I know.
And man, did they ever lean in on my...
Babies.
Oh, yeah. It was like my theory of the son. And then they just gave a monologue that was like, she had a son and she sacrificed. The monologue was like, did you hear what Ryan said last episode?
Yeah.
It seems pretty likely, doesn't it?
She looked right into camera and said it.
They also explained exactly what the sigil is, which is really interesting.
Which is cool. Yeah, because all the witches see it.
Yeah.
And they even said
which is like right at the gate.
Versus a witch. They said the sigil works to stop witches from seeing it. They didn't say all people everywhere.
Correct.
So it's only other witches looking at it.
But he tried to say his own name to the whole group, and nobody could see him.
Yeah.
Oh, see, this is the joy of watching forwards. But I'm like, had Agnes run? Or was she there? Because she wasn't a witch. So she should have been able to hear him say it, right? Oh, Sharon.
I was like, wait.
She called her Agnes at one point. I got lost in it. I think she was Agnes in the WandaVision version, but I mixed up the names on it.
Okay. Mrs. Hart.
Mrs. Hart, that 70s show.
Yes.
Mrs. Hart. I should look up this performer's name.
I think they purposely went around that because that was the scene where they turned to talk to her and she was gone. Right? She had wandered off.
Correct.
So we never saw her seeing him say his name.
Deborah Jo Rupp. I actually feel like I should know that name. Like, that name sounds stupid. That's Deborah Jo Rupp, who played Sharon.
Yes.
Sharon Hart.
Sharon Hart.
And she ran away and then got sucked into the dirt and got brought back. I still can't get a read on Agatha's experience on the road previously, though, because it seems like I can't tell.
You said she was making her I'm lying face.
The moment they were like, what do we expect on the road? And she quavered and then said some vague
some
shit.
Bravado shit.
It was very much the classic thing of like the fortune teller saying something to cover their ass so they don't get caught out lying.
Yeah.
And it just did not entirely math out for me, where I was like, has Agatha actually been on the road?
Or is she just lying about it all?
Or did she con her way into people thinking she was on the road?
But then it's also like, did she actually kill the baby to get the book? But if she wasn't on the road, weren't they implying that she got that from being on the road, that book?
The implication of the history of what we've been told is she went down the road, and at the end of the road, she got the Darkhold, but she traded her son for it. We heard from...
Her child.
Her child.
Right. But we think it's a son from the flashback in the first episode.
Son.
Did they say son?
I thought they said son. Yeah, I think the potions lady said it was a son to the Teen Witch.
Yes.
So Teen Witch, somebody's put the sigil on him, and all we know about this is a witch did it.
Yes.
And it hides information from other witches.
Yeah.
So theoretically, this dude's name is a game changer. Agatha argues she doesn't know for who, whether it's to hide information from her or from other people or in general, or if it's just a random person that got like dug up from under a rock. That felt more honest. I feel like I'm figuring out when Agatha's lying and when Agatha's not.
No, she does a good performance of that, when you can tell when she's being conniving or not, or when she's being really forthright or not. So
yeah, it's interesting for her to be kind of bad at it. Like, she's not a good liar.
Obvious.
She's not charismatic terribly.
No.
She
just bulldozes, honestly. That's more what it is. Just like, nope, not going to entertain this at all. Next. And it's like, because no one's actually her friend or close to her, they're all like, whatever, lady. You know?
Nobody has the ability to call her any bullshit.
No.
She's just the Robert California of the witch world, just showing up, taking over, and leaving. And people are like, why was she here in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
But then Sharon, they're like, stay on the road. Sharon runs away, sets her purse down. It almost gets sucked in. Well, it gets sucked into the ground. And then she almost gets sucked in. And the protective witch saves her by using the power of pulling.
Yanking.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I'm sorry. How dare I say something terrible about your fellow
pulling
witches?
Pulling is more formal. Yanking was the physical thing, you know?
The opposite of a shove is a yank.
Yeah, it's true.
A pull can be polite, but in any direction.
That's what I mean. You can pull things, with pulleys from the ground.
Pulleys? Do you mean like with a rope through a pulley, or were you using an informal term for a polite lift as a pulley?
No, I meant like a rope with a pull.
Oh, okay, I want to make sure you like making up words, but this is unhinged already.
I think I don't realize how many words I make up until it's like recorded down, and I'm like, no, don't repeat my things I say back at me. I don't want to know what I say. I don't want to know these things.
So they put Sharon on the road, and Agatha just says, stay on the road, which again, it feels like she's making up how the road works.
Yeah.
Like the song popped up afterwards, and Teen Witch quotes the song, and
apparently,
she's like, yeah, sure,
it's part of it. Part of the song is like, stay on the road.
Stay on the road, in like a fancy way that I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
But she's so dismissive of it, and it just feels like Agatha is trying to stay in charge by telling people things, but she doesn't know what's happening. Because if I was told, like, if you're not in charge, they're going to eat you alive, I'd be like, this road, here's how it works. Let me tell you.
Right.
Don't you leave it.
Right.
You leave the road, that happens to what happened to her right there. More. It's like not terribly smooth. But we don't know what her original coven was like.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if her original coven were the Salem 7. I'm wondering if that's where it's like she took their magic.
That's possible.
She robbed them on the road and then sacrificed her kid and left with the Darkhold and the magic of 7 witches. And Agatha is just like a hardcore person. But maybe misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm feeling.
There's a piece missing here versus the story we get about her versus the reality of what she went through. So
yeah, I feel like it's kind of like Loki, where I'm like,
yep,
you're leaning on this was a villain, but we're going to reveal that they made one bad decision and have been coasting on reputation since then.
Yeah.
But they go to the path. They end up at the house, as far as I can tell from, I'm just going to say generically, like, I don't know, it was like a White Lotus house or something like that. Like, it just felt like vacation home on the beach.
Yeah. Between the jokes in episode 2 and then this, I also feel like this is Disney here's one for the moms. Like, that's what that house made me feel like.
An episode for your mom to be like, oh, they all look really nice.
Yeah.
Disney for the moms.
This one's for you, Mom.
Yeah, in case your daughter forced you to watch something that was too spooky.
Yeah.
Here's one nice, relatively safe episode.
Exactly.
It's amazing the tonal shift between these 3 episodes. Because the first one was from silly Mayor of Easttown.
Yes.
To just silly
To straight up fightings.
to ninja fight where they're like, don't worry, it's Marvel.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I don't know, a story later.
Yeah.
And then episode 2 is all
witches
it's like
and
witch
spooky.
heist.
Witch heist plus spooky ending.
Yeah, they leaned into like it stayed horror. This was
Yeah.
the first one where like
It was a little
it was hallucinating,
goofier.
but it was like, yeah, it was just a little cheesier, a little stranger.
Yes.
Like this one felt more like TV, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. And I think the house plus their outfits made it feel more that way because it had like a cleanliness to it that felt almost, I guess, like cheaper vibe.
100%. It stopped feeling like a
Yeah.
movie because it looked like a TV set, but
Yes.
it's supposed to be this like magical vision. And I think there's a challenge for an audience if you're looking at something like that where you're like, you're going to show me a fantastical realm where everything's different, and they're like, actually, it's like a house full of people who all dress like white people.
Honestly.
People who all dress like a poor person's idea of a rich person.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting too, because I was thinking about the heist thing of like, okay, we'll need one witch to do each thing. And I think that is true because this was obviously the potion lady's whole setup. But I also found it interesting and to me a little more hectic that it wasn't like, oh, it's focused on her, so we get all the focus on what she does or her history. It still gave us a little piece of every other witch, which to me it's more confusing that way because I don't get to focus in on just one person's backstory, getting to know one person more. It felt like the same thing with the previous episode where it was like a little snippet of everybody.
Yeah, well, and it's really interesting to see the effect that has when you're just kind of watching. Where like episode 2, they got me right on the edge of my seat. Where I was like, tell me stuff, and then they were like, we're not going to reveal that yet.
No.
We're going to take a big step back, and it's going to be it's going to be this abstract puzzle that like isn't really, the puzzle is unrelated to all of them other than it's a potion. So it's the potion lady's.
It's
mystery.
the potion lady's thing, but everyone gets a little snippet, but then we don't have any like the only one we have context for is the protection witch because we knew her mom and what her mom meant to her. Her
hallucination mathed out.
Yes.
She'd said her mom was not in a good way, and then the tattoo got brought up with the curse. And I felt like her arc of like, giving us more information about her, I was like, I have context for all. Yeah, you're completely correct.
So to me, I'm like, okay, that one maths out, but the other two are just vignettes of like, here's a spooky person. What does it mean to them? I don't know.
Divination witch, her whole family's dead. She seems to fear death, but a literal embodiment of like black cloak and skull leaning over family members. Theoretically, I guess her, if she's seeing her own death.
Yeah, her or her family or something, because that was like very.
It seems like her whole family's dead. Yeah,
medieval style clothing. Yeah,
100%. And Agatha said to her when she was covering everybody's powers, and what they wanted. Because they did that, like, we're
she
really going to make this obvious. You want to
changed.
change your fate.
Yeah.
So,
but I know we don't have enough information. So you're like, you gave me a puzzle piece, but by itself, it doesn't mean anything. So
and they're like,
it's
the
like I
potion
wish
lady,
I had more context.
Like the potion lady had her powers stolen
by a creepy guy,
an 18th century doctor. Like it seemed like Dr. Frankenstein stole her powers.
Like that's what's funny is I'm glad that you said that because to me, I was like. Is this a soda shake guy? Like, a soda jerk? Like, that's what he looked like to me.
He's dressed like doctors in like the Nick in the early 1900s or the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And if I went there immediately because I was like, oh, she's a potions person. So it's probably like a chemistry or somebody like that.
I see.
And they're all supposed to have lived hundreds of years.
Absolutely.
Or no, you're right. She just had a really bad time at the milkshake stand.
That's what I saw instantly.
With like crazy Pete's milkshakes.
I think it was both like just the bearing of the guy plus the outfit. I just instantly went to like 1950s diner man. And I'm like, what did he do?
Well, I think he was also everywhere else they kind of stepped into an environment that matched the era, which was
he
like,
was just like kitchen with her.
Yeah, he was just a guy in a kitchen. And I was like, I think this lady could kick that guy's ass.
Yeah. Like,
she's so cool.
Yeah.
And she seems tough as nails. And I'm like, I understand that those, like, listen, I'm not judging anybody's experience in the world, but it was just like this narratively
didn't seem to match.
Didn't feel as scary as like the mom's dressing room
corpse.
Or the like endless death room.
Yeah.
Or we didn't see Sharon's, which is too
Sharon's,
bad.
we heard her say it.
We heard her say it, but I would have loved to see it.
Oh yeah. Oh, you see that? Disney's like, that's a little dark, Ryan. We can't show that man getting murdered again.
Do it. Do it, you cowards.
This one's for the moms, Ryan.
It's also because it was so separate from each other. It wasn't like they all saw each other's hallucinations.
Yes.
Where I'm like, if they all learn stuff about each other and it changes the dynamic, that's interesting.
And it's also tough because all of them had their hallucinations and either were by themselves or just came out of it and were like, anyway. So you're like, okay, there's no lasting impact for them. So like, what am I supposed to feel about it?
Yeah, the one that seemed to like hit you the most, and I think me as well, was Agatha's, where we're like, we hear Potion Lady tells the Teen Witch, Agatha sacrificed her son. She did that to get power. She wouldn't even recognize his face now. She sucks. Yeah. She'll betray anybody. And he's like, oh.
So even that was
he
cool.
may as well have said, like, am I her son?
Right.
It's pretty obvious. But then we saw it, and I was like, I liked the creepiness of it.
Yeah.
It made sense. Like, crying baby.
Yeah.
Here's the pram.
And even that, it was cool because I instantly had the reaction of like, ooh, is this baby going to look like Teen Witch? And then when they turned and showed it, it was like, oh, it's even creepier.
Book.
It's the book.
The book was crying.
Fuck you, the book is here. Like, so that one was the most impactful. But again, because we have the context to understand why it's spooky.
Well, and it was legitimately spooky.
Yes.
The others were like, I'm going to reliving a memory that's scary for those people.
For the character, but we don't have the information as to why.
No. And it like the Darkhold switch also is just visually startling and it looks creepy.
Yeah.
That book as a crying baby reveal in a pram is like, that's legit good horror movie spoopers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting. I think there's also a challenge from like a screenwriting perspective. And I've talked with some people who've worked in horror before because it's tricky to be like, and these characters are going to go along this path and they're going to go through these like traps or trials. And it's the same problem they have in like the escape room movies as they go on, where the challenge is, how do you make this room matter to the characters and to the audience? Because it's kind of like, how are these characters going to solve this problem? It was custom designed for these characters.
Yeah.
How do you maintain tension in that where it's like, oh, they're in a random house. Oh, they got poisoned by a poison that only this lady can spot by information we as the audience don't have.
Yeah.
Oh, they can only solve it by information this lady has in her head that we don't have.
And doing a scavenger hunt in a house that we only get to see when they find things. So there's not... Yeah, it feels very like the characters sure are doing a puzzle that I'm watching.
It's the different, like watching good heist movies. The Ocean's 11 movies or stuff like that. They set up the sub heists where they're like, oh, we need to get through here and we need to get to this.
And we know why it's important and we know what the plan is.
And they're like, here's everybody's job. When it goes well, this is what it's going to look like.
Yep.
And then they go do the job and it goes bad. And we know why it's wrong. And we know, how are they possibly going to fix this? And they use other tools we're aware of to watch happen.
And I think that's another thing that's interesting about the heist movie is sometimes they're like, here's the thing and here's the plan. And then one part goes awry and then everyone's like, okay, how can we fix this part of the plan so the rest of the plan kind of goes off? And sometimes they do fix it and sometimes it's like further complications that they have to fix. Whereas it's like, if they don't fix the puzzle of this potion, literally everyone dies and there's no more TV show. So like they have to do it.
It's not really tense when they set the timer and they're like, everyone in this show will die. And we're like, well, there's more episodes.
Come on, Disney. Yeah.
Like killing one of them is a great way of raising stakes at the end. Because it felt like, everybody's going on like their weird Goonies adventure through the undersea cavern. And they came out of house and they're fine. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Someone being dead at the end that's a nice turn.
You built big stakes in episode 2.
Yep.
And then it kind of got a little softer, but then it's still running. Like I'm fascinated to see where it goes, but I don't have any idea what we're going to face now because the road
could be randoms.
It became weirder, but less fantastical.
Yeah, like it just turning into a house. So I think that whichever witch lady is next on the trial, it'll be something related to them. Will we be at a rock concert?
Like, a hot topic. We're just going back to hot topic. We're going to hot topic twice for the protection witch and for teen witch.
Yes, exactly.
All hot topics.
All malls, all the way down.
How did we end up at a Walgreens? They all say in episode 3.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be back to discuss The Road even further. Okay, so one of the things that I've been thinking about when it comes to the idea of this house versus the reality, because there's a difference between the concept of something like that when you read the script
Ooh,
or when you read the novel versus the impact of seeing it. And I think there is a real challenge with like mind-bendy, reality-altering stuff to look as scary as it would feel on the page.
Yeah.
Because I think the idea of being in this house and then the timer popping up, it's a little clumsy, but it's fine. We're like, okay, they have a certain amount of time. They don't put it together, which is weird, or discuss it, which is weird, but fine.
Fine. It's just.
But then the house randomly appearing underwater and cracks in the windows appearing, but then it kind of stops being about that because they're just in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then the water comes back, and I was like...
And it also seems a little like thematically unrelated to the house.
And the solve.
Yes.
They're like, you need a potion to deal with being poisoned. Why are you now under sea?
Right.
It doesn't seem like this is related in any way to the potions lady. She said she loved the house, so I'm like, okay, and her skincare products are in the house.
Yes.
But it didn't feel like the house was designed to torture her in that like mind-bendy way.
Yeah, or the fact that the house was so normal, where I feel like if you wanted a house that's like, ooh, it should seem normal at first, but there should be things off about it if it's actually just a weird dream hellscape or whatever.
And the underwater thing was just... They never showed us an exterior, so we never got a sense of the scale. We never saw sharks outside the window.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, they were having a fine time on a house on stilts over the water in the middle of nowhere with no land. Like, it was safe, and then it wasn't.
Yeah,
Whereas
it
the
was
idea,
weird,
like,
too, because it went from desert to being underwater, and it's like, what is the meaning? Why? But obviously that lady has some problem with being underwater because her vision tried to drown her. So was the connection?
Maybe that. It just wasn't.
It just wasn't super
scary.
clear.
And then it was like Agatha broke the window, so but that just meant they saw the water. It wasn't like they lost time because she cheated.
That's so true. Yeah. So then otherwise it's like, how would they have known that there was water unless she tried to break the window because she tried to get out of being part of the thing?
It kind of gets into the writerly thing of they needed a way to force everybody to climb into the oven, so they filled the room with water. So you're like, oh, how do we get them to do this? And it's the custom-built, like, very writerly puzzle of writing your way out of a problem you created for yourself.
Yeah, but it does seem weird narratively because maybe that lady got drowned at some point or someone tried to murder her that way. So that's why it was her fear. But it wasn't like she seemed particularly upset about it. It seemed everyone was on the same level of like, that bad.
No one wants to drown in house.
Yeah.
Drowning bad.
Drowning bad. I know.
Did none of these witches float? Am I right?
Yeah, a lot of it was very sweet. And I think even the cartoony bloated face situation.
Oh, yeah.
That was very strange to me.
That felt very Real Housewives. Like, this is a joke about bad plastic surgery.
That's what I thought it was. And but then it was also like dog that ate a bee feeling to it. But it seems so slapstick cartoony that then I'm like, now I'm really not scared. This is just weird.
Yeah, I think the challenge is trying to make a poison scary. It's just really tricky where they're like, this character will die. And I'm like, I don't really know these people. And I don't think they will. I do not think you will kill. I was like, you will not kill the potion lady. You will not kill Agatha. You will not kill Patti LuPone, who I still do not know the character name. So my favorite character is just the actress Patti LuPone, who I hope may also kiss Aubrey Plaza before the end of the series.
Our two favorite actors, the actors' names. They supersede the character in this case.
Yeah, I think it's just the puzzle outweighed the character impact for me.
Yeah.
And the puzzle I didn't find super interesting or challenging because none of the characters...
We also didn't get to know anything about it.
None of the characters had to make any hard choices.
That's true.
It was really easy. It was a fetch quest.
Yes.
Instead of like, there was no personal sacrifice. There was no, they had to work together in an unexpected way.
Yeah.
There was no one whose knowledge saved the day. It was just like, I think Jen, they said her name was?
Yeah.
Can Jen remember stuff from potion school?
Right.
She does, because Agatha says, you may have lost all your powers, but you're still doing good work.
And then she remembered she forgot a step.
And it was like, what work? She ran an unsuccessful cosmetics company that burned 800 people. Does Agatha just not like people? Like, is that the good work? She's like, you burned 800 normies.
I don't know. It's another thing where it seems like we're missing out on information because it seems like these people know each other more than they're letting on, but they're kind of nodding at each other, but not the audience.
Yeah, I think it falls into this. Again, I think they're just trying to redeem Agatha. I think Disney does not really The more I look at this, and I could be wrong, I'm cheering for being wrong because they could get really gnarly at the end of this.
Yeah.
But I think Disney is they simultaneously are like, people love these villains. I need to give this villain a show. And the first thing they do is like, I need to make this villain a hero.
What if Agatha's parents got murdered by Dalmatians and that's why, she's evil?
100%. They need to have their reason. And if this feels to me like the moments where Loki all of a sudden had guilt instantly. It wasn't earned. It wasn't like, oh, he went on a journey. Because Loki's journey in the other series, does it get like mildly spoilery, but like his journey with other Loki, where you're like, oh, I can see this personal connection forming over time. It was good.
Yeah.
But episode 1, him being like, I never wanted to do a bad thing. And I was like, motherfucker, you had a pretty good time doing some bad shit. And this feels like, oh, they're like forcing the moments where Agatha is the center of this new coven. Where she's like, I believe in you. And I've always believed in you. And she's
help
like,
everybody,
I had no powers and you left me to run an unsuccessful company where I burned people. And she's like, yeah, because you're a witch. She's like, oh, blood. Oops, my bad.
Yes.
It wasn't even related to the speech.
Yeah.
Teen Witch didn't save Teen Witch saved the day by accident because they need the Black Heart.
They do.
Teen Witch.
Need him. They need him there.
They didn't need.
He's doing a helper.
They didn't need Sharon. Get out of here, Deborah Jo Rupp.
That's why she had to die.
You booked 3 episodes on a pretty big series and you got out of there.
Congrats.
Got out of there like a champ.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It is wild thinking about Disney trying to redeem it. It also falls into the trope that is not my favorite in the world between this and Wanda. Is like, but what if woman is mom?
Sad mom, kill fine.
Yeah. What if lady evil because children die? Maybe that's the only problem.
Here's the question. Do you think Disney, at its core with these movies, is suggesting that having children is the greatest weakness and mistake a powerful woman can make?
It seems like
I watch all these, and I think the lesson is don't have children.
Don't have kids.
It seems to be anti-kids and pro-murder if you don't have kids.
That's true.
There's a
don't
strong
let anyone
theme,
murder
there's
your
a strong
kids because
theme
you'll become evil.
of forgiveness.
Yeah.
But they are circling back to these core drives, which is interesting. I mean, admittedly, every story has been told 10,000 times.
Of course.
And it's really just how you tell it.
Yeah.
I think it's just watching these, especially in like relatively quick succession.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, episode 2 had so much promise and raised such cool questions we want answers to. I want to know more about this world. And it just was like
a house.
Okay, we got through the house. Like this feels like a half a step forward on any plot. I'm like, Agatha's relationship with these witches hasn't really changed. But I like this episode we learned about her theoretical son being dead.
Yes.
Could be the man witch.
Yeah.
/ teen witch.
Yeah.
We learned he has a sigil. And we learned the potions witch's power was stolen.
Yeah.
Divination witch is afraid of death.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. No, they really didn't come together that much.
We learned one thing about the story every 10 minutes of runtime.
Right. Yeah, so that's what's tough is it does feel like it was just like a little escape room puzzle box that they all kind of yelled at each other and then got through it.
Well, we thought it was going to be so fantastical from leaving a regular town to showing up in a slightly nicer house.
Yeah, if anything, I think that was the biggest disappointment for us. It's just like, we just left idyllic town, now fancy house.
Yeah, if they had
Give us something.
If they had done idyllic town 2 episodes from now, it would have been a really cool change of pace. But it just felt like a bait and switch where we got a less interesting thing.
All those cool gnarled trees with different colors. That's the other thing I noticed is that the path trees in the first one were blue.
Which was the potion color. And now it's red, so I think we're going protection.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good call.
It's color-coded.
The Jedi witches, so they can sell that
But
stuff.
even the set of the creepy forest with the gnarled and the goop, and I'm like, ooh, that's cool. And then back to a house.
I wanted them to have to negotiate with a village of the Dark Crystal Skeksis or something. Like, that's what I was expecting. And I guess this is a subversion of expectation, but you just want to be subverted in a way that like delights you. And I had a moment of that because when they got into the house and they showed everybody in their new costumes, I had to give you a high five because we were like, I like different looks
vibes,
for witches.
looks,
and I think they're going to do that, my guess would be, with each new place. They'll revive, which
the cosplayers got to be going crazy.
I was going to say, they're just designed for cosplayers and memeing different outfits.
Get yourself 7 friends and get that witch group on.
Who's gonna beat Lupone?
I know. Yeah.
I'm Patty Lupone. I'm Aubrey Plaza. I'm Sharon.
well, the next one's gonna be a hot topic, and then the protection witch and man witch won't look any different, and everyone else gets new outfits.
Well, I'm all right with that.
There you go.
What do you think Patti LuPone's story is? We have limited evidence. It seems like she's speaking a language other than English in the flashback. I don't speak it, but it seemed possibly Russian, possibly Romanian. I could be completely wrong, but with that kind of the teen girl she saw in the hallway in her vision had a strange, almost doll-like dress to her. It felt aristocratic a little bit.
Like an old painting style.
And then she walked away.
Yeah.
And then it became the traditional horror house of so many video games with like the vines and the creepiness and collapse. And then this incredibly elderly woman just staring at Patti LuPone with death looming over her.
Yeah.
Do you think they're doing another like daughter thing? Like Patti LuPone has lived 450 years. So if she had a daughter who wasn't a witch, you're just like, oh, you can't escape death. You had a kid and you know your kid's going to die. And then your kid died. And like, you just know that's how it's going to play out.
I guess between the two of them, the only one not seeming daughter or mom related is just the potions lady. Obviously, the other one's looking for her mom. But yeah, Patti LuPone.
She's the one person with a bad dad. Baby.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it does seem like maybe she just continues to lose people or something like that. It definitely seems like a cursed family line kind of thing. And that plus saying that she's been in villages trying to warn people of bad things coming. Like maybe she tried to warn people of, famine or some kind of disease or something.
Or she can only tell them it's going to happen. She can't change it. Like it seems like that would be the nightmare of divination would be like, you can't change fate. You just get to watch it.
Yeah.
You're like,
definitely is.
This is really going to be sad later.
Yeah.
Which is like a real life curse that I think you and I have both discussed dealing with in therapy.
Everything will be bad.
Or, like you will lose everything you ever touch as a person.
Everything will change and die. And how do that's just reality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good horror fodder to be like tackling things that are real, which are like we all lose people, we all lose things, we all lose jobs. There's no true constancy, and so much of that is beyond our control, and that's so nihilistically terrifying. Yeah. It's also beautiful when you look at it other ways of like the ephemerality that makes things so precious to all of us all the time.
That's like the being a nihilist, sad face versus being a nihilist, red. Like nothing matters.
Well, I think that's the answer you traditionally want in a horror film is that like that kind of optimism can defeat that kind of nihilism. Yeah. And this is just like, oh, that's a really good fear to play with. Mm-hmm. And the idea of potions being like my magic was stolen by like a male authority figure, which becomes a metaphor for so many things. Oh, yeah. Like there's so much there to mine. And I'm like, I don't know if Disney really has the guts to tackle this issue, because it doesn't seem like it with the jade egg joke starting off as the way we met this lady. And then I'm like, they're like, you lost your shit. Don't you want it back? And I'm like, I don't know if that's how flippantly I would describe the story we're seeing now.
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing with this is I liked all the little tastes that we got of everyone. But it's a bummer because I wish each episode could focus on one lady and maybe all of the ladies helping that one lady through their whatever. So we're like bonding over
that would be really cool. So hopefully that'll happen in the future, because I'm like, Agatha is not loss of child. Agatha is sacrificing your child's well-being for your career.
Yeah, right.
Potions is having your career stolen by a powerful man. Mm-hmm. Patti LuPone is...
I love that it says her name. It's great.
I need to say her name like 5 more times for me. But hers is fear of death and losing everything and being the sole survivor.
Yes.
We don't know anything about Teen Witch, but we're assuming he's the son of Agatha at this point. Or that's a fake out to make her think he's her son.
I know, because you said at this point they're laying it on so thick, you're like, maybe it's a red herring.
That's the thing. They dived so deep into an explicit monologue about like, Agatha had a son, and did you know that she sacrificed him? And if he was here now, maybe he'd have a sigil on him, and nobody would know his name, and she wouldn't know what he looked like. And she's still, when he went to drink the poison, to drink the last of the poison she wouldn't do. That was the one moment where Agatha stepped forward and was like,
that's
no,
right. She
and down
wanted
the whole
to protect him instantly. So we're like,
But it's so explicit that I'm like, I can't tell if it's Disney being like, we know a lot of kids are going to watch this show.
Right, so we have to be really explicit about it. Yeah.
We're like 12-year-old, like there are 12-year-old kids who are going to be like, I love witches and watch this show. Yeah. And it's very different to create a mystery for a 12-year-old than it is to create a mystery for, the 38-year-old screenwriters in the audience.
And that's, I think, the thing about Disney in general. It's sort of like, what specifically is this audience? But I think the audience is like as big and as general as you can. So then it's becomes
everything they do is 4-quadrant storytelling, where they're like kids, adults, every age range, every gender presentation or interest. Mm-hmm. How can you make a show for everybody?
This one's for the moms.
This show?
Yeah.
Get your husband out of here.
Yeah.
Hit him with your jade egg and send him
This
off.
one's for the moms.
This is for the moms. But if you're rich, we hate you. This is for middle class moms.
There we go. The heart of America.
Yeah, I will. One of the lines that got me, because I liked the joke kind of, but it's like the potions lady looking at herself in her White Lotus costume, being like, "I look like one of my
customers,
clients, one of my customers." And I was like, "This is kind of close to the stuff you wore already." But I want to be like, "Man, your customers are gorgeous."
Oh.
like they don't need your help if they look like that when they're starting off. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and she was the only one who, when she started getting sick, she said something like, "Oh, not my perfect face that I had before," or something like that. Like, very vain, I guess, which is not what I got from that character originally. But then it was like, "Oh no, I'm not as pretty."
Yeah,
I'm like, what?
We're still learning a lot more about these witches, and we'll learn even more after this commercial break. Yeah, I didn't know she was going to be obsessed with her vanity. That was an interesting touch when it's like, it seems like she looks down on her customers, but she's self-obsessed.
Yeah.
But she had this tremendously tragic thing. They may be consciously trying to blend a little bit of kind of Agatha where they're like, they're all a little bit anti-hero-ish. Like they've all done selfish and not great things. I did like Patti LuPone going off about pointed hats, just complaining about witch things. Like she feels like the right voice to be like, "Oh, come on." Like you can feel that woman has ranted at other people saying stupid shit her whole life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think she feels the most grounded. Like we get a whole character out of the gate with her. I think because of she had the most extended scene of getting her to come and join the team. So I think seeing that from the outside of her, you get more of that character than the other ones. Yeah.
I've been thinking about it, and it's crazy to me in a 9-episode series that we've seen a third of it now.
Oh, my God.
So this is, in a traditional 3-act story, we're a third of the way through the story. So we know what normal life was like before.
Yeah.
We've seen the inciting incident, which is like coming out of the dream, but more importantly, needing to walk the road. It's really Teen Wish talking about the road.
Yeah.
Getting the group together, setting off. This is the official point where like the road of trials would traditionally begin. So they did a little bit of that early.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of real estate to give to this house. No Salem 7.
Right.
We learn nothing more about the road.
Yeah.
And no Aubrey Plaza. And I'm like, this is a lot.
Crime.
This is a huge amount of real estate to give up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've felt this way about some other shows as well, where they've done stuff that's like either interesting for character reasons or other things. But I felt like, I'm so sorry. I felt like The Last of Us, the TV series.
Oh, I didn't even finish watching it all.
There were 2 or 3 episodes where I was like, when you only have this many episodes to do an entire flashback at a mall that was like DLC from the original game. It has some really cool moments and some really cool character stuff. It does 0 things for the plot of this story, and it's nowhere near as excellent as the like side couple story that made me think it was going to be an anthology at the start.
Yeah.
Like you really got to start looking at your real estate and going like, how good can this be? I think the creators of Wednesday talked about this because they're the same team who made Smallville.
Oh, that is interesting.
But they were saying when you do a series for old network and you have 22 to 24 episodes that you have to churn out every year, every season, they're like with 24 episodes.
Some gimmies in there.
They're like, there's going to be a few bad ones.
Yeah.
You can't make 24 great episodes. When you have a Netflix miniseries and you're doing 6 or 8 or 10 episodes, you can't have a mediocre one.
Right. No, I mean, we're talking about this when we were watching the Star Trek Next Generation. Of like, there's some absolute bangers, then there's some like, we rolled, what are you going to do? We had to make every week an episode. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't have everybody on set. We got to save money on this. Like, this is the bottle episode because last week we fought an army. And like this, admittedly, this is very much the bottle episode to
like,
save money for other episodes.
So maybe we'll get some crazy vampires and demons in the future, but... And that's the other thing.
This feels more like they're going to walk into a different puzzle box with a different style every episode. And then
is it different directors for every episode too? Because then I wonder, is it,
I'll look at
give somebody else a shot and they get their own one-off episode, and it's kind of, it can be different than the rest of them.
Okay, Seekest Thou the Road was Jack Schaefer, who was the creator of the show. Episode 2 was Jack Schaefer. Jock Schaefer, J.A.C. Schaefer. The third episode is Rachel Goldberg. So different director than the first.
Director.
The first was the showrunner and creator of this series. This is the first time it's been a director for hire
I see.
coming in to do this, which may be why it has a very different aesthetic.
Different tone to
There's
it.
a strength to it, but also the first two really trod the line between horror and comedy and stayed grounded. And this one felt just
A little more goofy.
sillier.
Yeah.
And a little, like with the bloated face stuff, I was like, I don't know why, it just felt mean at
Yeah.
points where I was like, this doesn't feel
I'm
as
not sure what I'm
charming.
supposed to feel about that.
My hope is that this one, because it's not terrible or anything.
No.
It's
But we're just like
that second episode.
That second episode got us so hyped.
So hyped.
Yeah.
My hope is this is an aberration where I'm like,
Yeah.
this one's just like, okay, this is part of the we see kind of how it works. We get an
Yeah.
idea that there are going to be puzzles. We learn somebody's going to die, and like we'll get to better, more intrinsic
Because
stuff.
if they give us more character specific stuff, I think I'll be more excited about that. I even the thing that stands out most for me of this episode are the flashbacks, the little horror moments. And it's like, I wish there was more of that, or I wish there was more connection to the main plot of that, because it wasn't even connected to the house. It wasn't connected to anything in particular. There were just these little vignettes, but those were so much more interesting than the puzzle or any of the other stuff.
And some of it was just a little expositional for me, where I was Teen Witch is going to go get something, and Jen, the potion witch, I think Jen, she goes off to talk to him, and I was like, oh, she's going to try to unwork this sigil. Oh, she's going to try to turn him directly against Agatha. Oh, she's going to do this. And instead, she almost told a story so we, the audience, would hear it. Where I was like, I don't know what you want him to get out of this, because you're not like, other than like you can't trust her, but like none of you can trust her, and you're all here. So this isn't really educational. And it wasn't like you can trust me. Like I was just like,
that's true too.
Take a bigger swing with these conversations, because Agatha is here. Agatha will screw you over. I don't know who put this thing on you, but I can help you. I will protect you when I am unbound. You cannot trust her. We are all going to have to band together at some point, and she's not the one. So like, here's the code word. When I say this,
just a little
back
bigger.
Me. Just get in, make some big
And then the
offers.
potion thing is rough too, because I know it's just a norm of having witches in media, but like, let's list out a list of ingredients that could be totally made up that has never been mentioned before
that they
this
then
point.
Give us modern comparisons to. Okay, so here, what do we think the future trials will involve?
I'm voting Hot Topic or a rock concert.
I think rock concert. I think we're going to get concert security, where they have to watch the cameras, and they have to do glamours, and they have to figure out who's coming in and who's going to like attack whoever the star is or something like that.
Well, that's the question too. Is it going to be all of these one-off bottle episodes? Are they even going to have extras, or is it going to just be these witches and empty?
Well, they've got how many
situations?
more? Protection, divination, Agatha, evil,
bad,
Earth.
Yeah.
So we're 3 in, 4, 5, 6, 7 final episode.
Yeah.
So the rest of the trials,
and then
close
the
out show.
finale. Yeah. So
That'd be my
they'll
guess.
just get to the end of the road and then the 2-part finale.
What happens at the end of the road? Who's actually behind this? What's going on with Teen Witch? Salem 7 will have finally closed in, and it'll be a big showdown between this, like...
Yeah, because it seems like as long as they're on the road, no one else can get into it.
I think that's going to change, because I think the Salem 7 are going to be there, and I bet it's Salem 7, the cool bad guys, versus like the Humpty Dumpty Coven from Westview.
I like that. It's very fun.
We've got Potion Lady with no powers. We've got Patty Lupone and
Polka Dot Man.
This corpse. Sharon pops up.
That's true.
Oh, if they zombify Sharon and Deborah Jo Rupp gets to do zombie stuff for the rest of this fucking show.
I want that.
Oh, god damn.
It was just because they gave her like the dead person white eyes, just instantly made me like, I want her as a zombie.
If they have zombie Deborah Jo Rupp, but she's on their team following them around like a dog, and it's just Teen Witch trying to teach her how to do stuff.
Oh,
that'd be so funny.
That would be so funny.
They would, and that's like a good Hocus Pocus callback
That's so
to like
true. That's
Corpse
so true.
Friend.
Yeah, Corpse Friend.
And I think
Zombie
Deborah Jo
Friend.
Rupp is very good physical comedian. So like chipper lady in zombie body, not that smart.
Oh, that's what you want.
Whether or not you're doing this in this show, Disney, could you please give me a movie where Deborah Jo Rupp is a zombie housewife? Because I think that would be very good. I'm aware
a good
there's
job.
the Santa Clarita whatever. I didn't watch it because it wasn't Deborah Jo Rupp. I want her. That 90s show, just and have it become that 2000 show and do a Walking Dead crossover and give me Red Foreman and Deborah Jo Rupp, zombie couple surviving the apocalypse.
You're throwing out gold, Ryan.
That's all I got. I'm walking the road, though. Okay, of the episodes we have seen so far, because we now have 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Where would you Where would you rank this of your favorite episodes so far?
This one, honestly, I think I would say I liked this one the least so far. I liked 2 the most, then 1, then 3. And I think you're right. I think it's the tone. And I think because also the tone felt a little mean for some reason, not in a fun way, though.
Yeah, I think it lacked the charm and it lacked the specific horror. Like, it wasn't character-based. It was just a little softer. It was like we were seeing the show we really liked, and the lens was just a little softer focus on what we liked about it. So, which is our take, not anybody else's.
100%. But yeah, I think there were cool things in it, but the other episodes felt like there was more of the cool things we were here for.
I think this episode, ultimately, if you watched episode 4 and saw the recap of this episode, you would get everything you needed out of this episode.
I think that's the main thing.
Because the recap
that's
is like, here's the
it.
4 flashbacks, here's the thing they learned, she's dead. And you're like,
that's
okay,
it. Yeah,
next episode, good.
That's the best stuff in it, for sure.
So if you are rating the show as a whole, we're going to re-rate every episode now, because we can. Where would you rank all 3 episodes, from where you're at in the series? Where would you rank this out of 10 for a Marvel series? And where would you rank this out of 10 for general television series?
All right, for Marvel series, I'm going to 7 out of 10, back down. Mm-hmm. And for general series, I think I'm going 6 out of 10. So both lower than I scored before.
For a Marvel series, this makes me less sure. And I'm really about, like, how do they stick the landing? The landing really matters to me.
It can change a lot.
I'm going to acknowledge I'm going to be the big swing guy. I'm going to love stuff or I'm not going to like stuff. I'm going to say for a Marvel, this feels like a solid 5. Between a slow Ep 1, a banger Ep 2, and a mediocre episode 3. I'm like, the next episode
is going to be decider.
Well, we're really going to get an idea where it's going. Because if the first one was, okay, these first 2 episodes are really one pilot.
Yes.
Then I'm like, this is episode 2. But it's so much shorter. They got to take like an hour and 20 an hour and 20 minutes to lay out all these first beats. And they're like, we go to this house for a half hour. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's still a lot of real estate. So as a general TV, 5?
Yeah.
I just think with this episode, I would not be like,
it's putting you on shaky ground.
After the first episode, I was like, well, I don't have to come back, but if it's on again, I'll have a good time. Second episode was like, I need to see this. This third episode, I'm like, I do not know what this show is.
Yeah.
But I am very hopeful it'll go up. I'm just cynical because the high was so high that
the high was so high.
Don't
let you
hurt
down.
me. Don't hurt me. I love Patty LuPone. I love Catherine. Where's Aubrey Plaza? You promised me Aubrey Plaza.
Where did she go?
She didn't even show up in a dream. I need ninjas and the threat of kissing. This became zero chemistry.
Yeah, there was no threat of smooches.
I don't want any of these people to kiss.
No.
I want Teen Wish to get a hug, but I don't want to kiss.
I agree. All right, we'll have to see what happens next. Where will our hearts be after this next episode?
Okay, but we're going to do our final guess. What's next on the road? You think
I'm
it's going to be the concert?
I'm concert / hot topic. That's what I'm going with.
Perfect. I'm going to say after that, we're going to do an entire tarot card reading thing for divination. I think we're going to get into the deck of cards and trying to manipulate it. I think that's going to be the big thing.
I'd be cool with that.
I think you're right. I think we're going to get protection first. But I'm hoping after that tarot or surprises.
We like surprises.
We love surprises, and we're looking forward to being surprised.
Yes.
So if you are listening right now, if you've got any fan theories, as long as they do not spoil anything after episode 3, please put them in the comments.
If you're watching along.
Let us know your thoughts. Is Teen Witch the son, or is Teen Witch a fake out? This is the chance to get your official vote in now before we all journey to the end of this show, and then we'll know. So please, I guess, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. Post a comment. It's a great way to support the show on an ongoing basis. We will keep burning through this, and our next thing that we will do after this, but we'll flag on Patreon, we're letting people vote. So realize you can join the Patreon.
Then vote on what we're going to do.
Vote on what we're going to be watching in future, because
we will decide our fates.
Please don't hurt us.
We can't control it.
I'm Special Correspondent Ryan LaPlante, and I am not a witch. This is Special Correspondent Del Borovic.
I am not a witch.
Ooh. Thanks for tuning in to Nerd News. This series is produced by Dum Dums and Dice, edited by Ryan LaPlante, and our audio is mixed by Laura Hamstra. You can follow us on any social media platform at Dum Dum Dice. Support us on our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice, or buy cool merch from our website, dumdumdice.com. Thanks for joining us, and stay nerdy. Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christopher Little, George Dolby, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger,
Glitch Trick, Flynn 1138, Alarain Okapi, Schrodinger's Pepper, Madre de Gatos, Lady Maiden, Mithrian, Garbo Ape, Sam Schaefer, Waffle Marine, Dagger Rain, Rob L, Dia de los Hoodless, Squishy Werewolf, Remy Funky Head, Accent Therapeutic Services in Florence, Kentucky, Lael, Shulzari, The Long Family, Jordan Oliver, Richard Wright, Brittany Fenwick, Alex Parr, Dragonfly, The Body Barrelers, Megan Werner, A Man Out of Time, Curtis at FingerTechRobotics.com, Panda24NN, Shendra D, Your Homeboy Bones, Ellis Hatch, Odigenous, Beef Not Cheese, Kai Koa, Squire Solaire, Sandy Sassy Pants, Adam, Amira Lockhart, James Molina, Nick Hemsing, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.